What's going on, folks? It's your boy again, back in the building. Dr. Sean Thomas here, episode 52 of the Be More Today show. We're back in the building. And folks, it's been an awesome season. It's been an awesome year. We're here in the month of March, and I already told you March is my month. I turned 40 this week, so I'm happy about that, and very grateful to be alive, to be able to still move and groove, and appreciative for the fabulous 40. Thank you for the wonderful wishes I've already received from you guys. I really appreciate it. And my March babies, shout out to you. You guys rock. Be More Today show is continuing to move forward. We are now in 34 countries, and it's been a blessing. It's really been cool getting out here and talking to awesome people. Again, our hashtag is ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and we've seen that. We've been seeing all kinds of people on the show who have been through journeys and going through struggles and changing careers and lifestyles, and it's been very inspiring to see people strive, right, and excel. So those of you who've been listening and supporting our show from the beginning with season 2 now, I appreciate you, and your support for the show is dear and near to my heart, so I appreciate you always. My quote for today is very, very simple. It's from Lucille Ball in the spirit of Women's History Month. And she said, "I'd rather regret the things I have done than regret the things I haven't." This is the time of the year where, if you have resolutions for January is now long gone. And a lot of people say, yeah, they want to do this and that, but those things happen. And then they kind of fall off as we get into like February and March. So if you want to do something in this life, folks, go out there and do it. We've already seen from this year that nothing is promised. Life is very, very short and very, very sensitive. And we should appreciate all that we have and all that we can do. So if there's something that you want to do in this life, do it. Changing career, change that career. If you're not happy with what you're doing, do it. And use this time to really get out there and make no excuses. Really cherish life that you have. This has been a crazy time for all of us, I think. But people go out there and still being creative and finding new ways to reinvent themselves, to find ways to make it work, find ways to be happy. And even if you were at the top of your game and you're doing something different now, or at the bottom of your game and do something better now, whatever it is, get out there and recognize that life is yours to conquer and to handle. And my guest for today is a stellar superstar. He is someone who I met through a program called the SWAG program at Downstate. And to me, he's the epitome of so many things. I'm thinking about all the athletes that we've had on the show who have shared their stories and their situations, but this one is a little special to me. His name is David Bretton Jr. And David Bretton is a former American football strong safety and special teamer. He was drafted by the Denver Broncos in the 4th round of the 2009 NFL draft and played college football at Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. He was a member of the Washington Redskins also. And Bretton attended Miamisburg High School in Miamisburg, Ohio. He earned all Division I and II all area honors from Dayton Daily News and won all district honors on defense. Now, his career in the NFL was stellar. He played 4 seasons for Notre Dame. We're playing as a starter in his junior and senior years. His best season came as a senior when he finished second on the team with 97 total tackles and had a team-high 4 interceptions. In Bretton's final college game, he had an interception at the Hawaii Bowl, helping Notre Dame win its first bowl since the 1993 season. Bretton graduated from Notre Dame in 2009 with a bachelor's degree in political science and sociology. Now, Denver Broncos drafted him in the 4th round in 2009 NFL draft, and he finished his rookie year, 2009, with 14 tackles. During the lockout, he had taken a job as a substitute teacher in Miamisburg, Ohio. We're going to talk about that because I think that's very, very interesting. But he provided the Broncos with depth at the safety position, and he was, as it was said, one of the most talented people on the special teams, and he was considered one of the best special teamers in the league. Now, Bretton was the Broncos special team captain from 13 to 15, and he went on to get injured, unfortunately, in one of his seasons, but did go on to win a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl number 50. And that was the game where they beat the Carolina Panthers by a score of 24-10. After playing for the Redskins, he went on to retire in July of 2017, and he announced the retirement after suffering a number of concussions, which I also want to talk about. But his personal life is so vast in the sense that he won the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award in 2015 and was recognized for his community and charity efforts, including his work with his charity, Bretton's Books. He is currently a DPT student, Doctor of Physical Therapy, soon to be. And I'm excited to have him on the show with me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pets included, please welcome to the stage my new friend and an NFL All-Star, David Bruton Jr. David, what's going on?
What's up, man? What's up? First, happy early birthday. Happy early birthday for
Thank you, sir.
And then let me just say, why couldn't I be on 50? Because we won Super Bowl 50. I'm on episode 52. I'm probably going to hit a little different then. But yeah, no. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. I know you're busy. I know you're doing 1,000 things. And I tried to have you on 50. It's my fault. It's really my fault. I'm sorry for that. My life got in the way. But I'm just happy you had the time to talk to me today a little bit. You and I met through the swag program that Downstate, a hospital in Brooklyn, did for up-and-coming student athletes, and looking at ways to really get them to get interested in health, and recognizing that we can be more than athletes. You know, athleticism is great to have, but it can be applied to the field, but also to life. And you and I were on a program together, a panel discussion with a number of different high school athletes who are striving to be future, student athletes. And it was great just talking to you and hearing your story and seeing you motivate and inspire these young people as well. I had to have you on the show just for that, because in looking at your journey and your bio and your history, I'm super impressed by you, and I'm super in awe of all that you've done so far, and all that you are going to be doing. Looking forward to what you're doing right now. So first of all, how are you? Tell the people where you are and how's your life been with COVID-19 and all things related.
Man, well, we're all here in Denver, Colorado still. Me and the family decided to make this home for the time being, and currently finishing up my second year, going into my third year of PT school here at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. So I got 9 months left till I graduate in December. So we're pretty much at the home stretch. Not that I have a countdown or anything, but definitely looking forward to graduating and getting out there into the real world. What else is going on in my end? Shoot, riding bikes, helping the kids with their school, trying to stay on top of my school and remain motivated with this COVID-19 going on. So definitely picked up a few more hobbies that I thoroughly enjoy, and then some hobbies that my wife doesn't enjoy, like me trying to fix stuff. She hates when I try to fix stuff because it never goes right. So I just get on the bike a lot more.
Cool. You and I share similarities in that I am also not the handiest person in the house. My wife is always like, "Oh no, I got it." So I understand that completely. But we're trying. We're trying. Right? Let her know you're trying.
Hammer, I got this. Oh, it's broken. Ah, crap.
We can't be good at everything. It's all good.
Oh.
So I read your bio, and again, your story is incredible to me, and I know that you've been interviewed 1,000 times about football. But most athletes that I talked to, including myself, played a variety of sports before they started honing in on one craft. Why football? What was it about football that really drew you to having that be your thing? And were there other sports that you would have played otherwise if it weren't football?
Oh, why football? I think it was probably one of my better sports to play. Once I got into high school, I stopped playing basketball, so I stuck to two sports, football and track. And I love track. Like, track was probably the one sport that I loved more than football. But it just, the opportunities and the skill sets and everything that was demanded of me on the track versus football, like, I just excelled more at football in comparison. So definitely took that route and was hoping during my time in college that I'd get a chance to run track and play football, because track's definitely in the family. My mom was a speedster. Tyson Gay's my cousin. So, like, speed is on my side, like, within the family. So I was like, I definitely wanted to go that route. But, it's one of those things, like, I wasn't really working too hard towards it. It just came natural to me. And then once it started clicking here my junior year, like, I decided to, like, put a little more effort into it, work a little harder, study a little more, and then it just became natural. And then it was just honing in my craft. And a lot of people don't know this because they just think that I was a stellar athlete from junior high all the way through high school, college, and and so on through the pros. My freshman year, I was on the team but didn't play one snap, not one snap. Sophomore year, they brought up a freshman to play ahead of me. So then it's like I had all these things against me. Obviously, people weren't seeing me as being a stud or a star athlete in football. And then that was just fuel to motivate me to get better. And then things started clicking mid-junior year where it's like, okay, now I'm that guy. Now I'm going to set a new precedent. Now I'm going to have other guys follow my lead versus me just staying there in the back.
Wow, that's crazy. I would have never known that or even thought that. I think a lot of people get sidetracked when they see people like you, excelling, doing so well, not thinking that they had to go do anything to get to where they had to be. But like you shared in our swag program, it takes work. You got to put in some work, and nothing is given to anybody. Sidebar, Tyson Gay cousin, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's like one of my biggest people that, as I ran track, and he's one of my people I looked at and continue to follow. So it's clearly in the genes, which is always a good thing to know. But that's very, very cool. Didn't know that about you at all.
Every now and then I'll challenge him like, hey man, when I come down to Florida or whatever, let's race. Knowing dang well, I'm gonna blow out both my hamstrings trying to keep up with him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's crazy. So yes, football became that thing, right? And I know that for you, as a student athlete, as I was as well, okay, not at your level, but going to Notre Dame, competing there, and then having to go through the drafting process. When did you decide in your career, college career, that you wanted to be a professional football player in the NFL status? And when did that decision really, what was it cemented for you that school was going to be held up for a while? I want to do this professionally. This is what I'm going to do.
I think it was my junior year. At the end of my junior year, when agents started reaching out to me, making it a reality that I could play at the next level. I think there's a theme around my junior year. Junior year is just where I've come into my own and kind of blossom at each level. So I think, once they started reaching out to me, it's like, okay, this could be my career path for at least a few years. So let's work a little harder. Let's put in a little more time. Not that I wasn't already working hard, but let's up the notch a little bit and become that leader and be vocal and things of that nature. And I think that was the kick in the butt that told me, we can make this a reality.
Yeah. Now, I've had a number of athletes on the show, and I've had some student athletes who, they're not at the college level yet, so they don't know what they're about to get hit with. And I tell them that, you think you're good, everybody's good. Yeah. But again, even at your level, you go from the high school level to the college level and then the NFL, where at college level, everyone's good, but then the NFL, everybody and their mom is good, So what was it like playing on that stage? You're a Super Bowl champ, you play with the best of the best. What was it like playing on that stage, and even in the Super Bowl? Like, what was it like being in those arenas where you just knew that you're playing with the best of the best for your craft in your field?
It was something to take in every time you stepped on the field. You never knew when your last opportunity was come. So you heard the old adage, leave everything out on the field. So I kind of tried to go out there at every football game, college, pro, just leave everything I got on the field, because there's no telling how long I'll be able to play this game that I love. But as far as like the skill level and having that mindset to go against these guys who are great, like you said, everybody and their mom is good at the balls. Like you kind of try to tell yourself, like, I'm here for a reason. Like, obviously I'm good enough to be here. So why am I going to doubt myself when everybody else around me, the coaching staff, all that, believes in me as well as and my teammates? Why would I have any doubt in myself as far as playing at this level? Yeah. Now with the Super Bowl, there's a little more anxiety in there. A lot more coursing through our veins and things of that nature. But you always come back down to the basics and the fundamentals. Like, even if skill kind of fails you from time to time, just go back to the fundamentals. And I think that's kind of what every sport is. Like, you can have the best handles in the world in basketball, but you're turning the ball over 7 times in the first half, then you're going to change it up. Let's go back to the basics, simple crossover, pick and roll type of stuff versus doing all that fancy Allen Iverson stuff that kids like to do nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. So it just just coming back home and being grounding myself in that moment and not being too worked up and just being myself. And I think you see that in a lot of professions and in school or whatever. It's like people lose who they are because of what the profession demands of them, what school demands of them. So I just made it a point to just kind of remain myself throughout every game, every situation, every circumstance.
That's big time. That's big time coming from you. I think that remembering who you are is something that we lose track of in all things, whether it's on the field or even at your job. So the fact that you're saying that can be applied to everything is a big time statement. And even in your level, when you were playing with guys like Peyton Manning, considered one of the best quarterbacks of all time, possibly. It's humbling to know that those same principles apply in all realms. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you sharing that. And shout out to Peyton Manning. I love him. I think he's fantastic, and I know you play with him. And what was it like playing with Peyton Manning? I mean, not many people can say they play with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So, what was your experience playing with him?
I'll tell you, it was great to be a leader on that team with him, and he definitely made me a better player just with the vast amount of knowledge that he had. Like, I can remember an instance during training camp, his second year here, and he was telling me, he was like, man, Brute, like, I can just see how your feet are. I can tell when you're coming down into the box, so I'm able to make a check. Like, you have a tell just by how my foot is. Like, yeah, your right foot's back. So whether you're on the left or the right, so you are always coming down. So I was like, okay, now I have to be mindful of my right foot being back while I'm coming down so he can't get a read. Even if I'm coming down late, he knows just by how my right foot is. I'm like, well, that's the next level stuff. So then I started looking at other players on other teams, like if they had tells, like certain tight ends, like if they're doing an outside breaking route, they had their outside foot up. So that always told me they were breaking out. So it's like you can pick up on little hints, even though he was on the other side of the ball. What he saw helped me as a defensive player.
That's big time. Yeah, like you said, next level stuff. There are levels of this thing. So
for sure.
That's I think one of the things that I always tend to forget, that there are different levels to how people attack their lives, right? And how attack their crafts. And you can be baseline, you can do the minimal, you can take that thing to the next level. And it's people like you and like Peyton Manning that have done that in their crafts. So kudos for you guys for reaching that level and doing that. Now that you're done with football, because I know you're retired now, and I'm sure you probably have done thousands of talks on your career. But looking back at the NFL seasons and the injuries you had a number of injuries, right? I read about concussions. I read about a game where you actually had an injury. You fractured your fibula, and you played like 77 plays, still going until you actually came out of the game. That's tenacity, I think, by itself. But looking at the way that the football has handled a number of the different concussions, incidences, and other things. Do you think that football is something that, looking back on it now, you still would have done or played? I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think football is something I still would have played. I think it's gave my family and myself great opportunities and a good life thus far. With the career, playing 8 years in the league and things of that nature, and what will come down in the future with past retirement, with all the other stuff the NFL provides. The only holdup I have as far as like starting the kids to play football very young, and as you know, like the brain's not developed. And I think football, and whatever parents are out there listening, I think football is a sport that's not watered down like baseball and basketball. You don't have 17 different type of leagues out there, and you have to enroll your kid in every single thing year round. Like football is probably the most pure sport out there without the demand as far as, we have to get them to batting practice, we have to get them to pitching practice, throwing practice, or we have to do handle drills and things of that nature. It's one of those games that doesn't require the same amount of, and it's going to sound wrong, but doesn't require the same amount of time, energy, and effort from the parent as the other sports. And so my two hangups is it's not as watered down with all the separate leagues, but also the concussions. I think for me, I started 7th grade, and I think that's a good age there. But yeah, 7th, 8th grade, there's no reason to have a child play Pee Wee and things of that nature, because again, the coaches, well versed in concussion management? Can they identify a concussion? Do these Pee Wee teams have access to a neurologist or a concussion certified PT or anything along those lines, or an athletic trainer for that matter? Like, there's a lot of things to think about as far as the safety of our youth.
Yeah, and that's why I was trying to ask these questions. I know that you're now in a DPT program, soon to be physical therapist yourself, and I'm always curious when they look back at what they did play and injuries that they did experience, if they would have still played, or if their kids would have been allowed to play. And I agree with you. A lot of those things could be better managed with the proper care on the sideline, proper coaching, proper preparation, all those different things. And those things can definitely hurt our young people, especially when you're talking about, you said 7th grade, right? That's super early. I've never had a concussion, but again, I didn't play a lot of contact sports. Basketball is probably the most of a contact sport that I played. Everything else was like running, track and field. So there was no contact like that, but football is that thing where, it's the love of the game is fantastic, but there is that risk that can definitely happen. And I do think having, like you said, some kind of parameters where people can be just in a safer environment would be more beneficial for everyone who's going to be playing this game moving forward. It's a great game, and you clearly have had so much success with it. And now I think using your knowledge that you have of physical therapy and applying that to the future of the game and applying that to the future of how the game will be played will be a great credit to your profession. I want to talk about that because I know that for you, this is a career change in a sense, right? You've gone from Super Bowl champ, and a lot of people would just cut it there. They would just say, I'm good, just live and do whatever they want to do. But I think it takes a special person to say, I want to go back and, do something different. Not saying it's totally different than what you did on the field, but it's definitely different in terms of now you're on the other side, and you can be actually helping those same athletes and applying what you learned on the field to what they're going to be doing. What's that whole journey been like for you, applying to school, and how did it even come about?
Well, honestly, throughout my time in the league, I knew that I wanted to go back to school. Like after every season, I looked into taking a class or two after the season just to get those prereqs, because I've known for a long time that I wanted to be a physical therapist. I known when I was in high school because I did a lot of shadowing, and we had a career class, and I spent 2 days a week at a physical therapy clinic in Miamisburg, Ohio. So like I knew that's what I wanted to do. My freshman year, I was pre-med. Obviously couldn't hack it pre-med with full-time job as far as a college student athlete. So I knew what I wanted to do even when I got to the league and looked into it. But every time we just got into the playoffs, and then we're cutting into the start of the school, the spring semester. So I was like, okay, I had to postpone it then. Not saying that's a bad problem to have, because it's a good problem. We're going into the playoffs with a chance for the Super Bowl. But I've known for a long time. So after I got that last concussion and realized, I want to be able to play with the kids. I want to still be able to function, things of that nature. I've had 6 that's on record. So just thinking about that, it's like, I'm gonna just apply to get my prereqs right after that, my 2016 season with the Redskins. So I jumped into school right away. So the season was over January 2nd. I was in class January 6th. Like, I jumped into it right away. So I was taking all my chem, my bio, all that jazz. And I'm going to tell you right now, like that first 3-4 months was tough, like, because it was a whole different type of learning. Like I had to figure out how to relearn in a classroom. I had to figure out how am I going to adapt my current learning style to the classroom, because we would learn in the meeting room in football, and then we'd be on the practice field running through them again versus different routes. So the repetition was there. Okay, how the heck am I going to do it with chemistry? How am I going to do it with bio? How am I going to do it with cell bio, anatomy, things of that nature? So definitely took those first 3 months were hard. I definitely struggled a lot during those first 3 months. Took the prereqs for the next 2 years and applied to 2 PT schools, got into them both, and decided that I wanted to go to CU. And man, it's been great. It's been a great transition because it's like I can fall back on my experience with all the exercises that I've had to be put through. And now it's like, okay, here's why I was doing it there in the training room. And now I can see how I can apply this to pediatrics, adolescents, adults, geriatric. Like I can apply these same principles across the board: concussion, MS, ALS, things. Just now I have a good foundation as to why I'm going here. And then they give you the fundamentals. And at times when you get that complex patient, sometimes you have to fall back to the fundamentals and then let's find a different path. So it's been a great transition going into the actual program, being able to hone in on that craft and follow another path that I've absolutely loved.
I love the ability to see it from both ends. I love the fact that you're already thinking about your experience and how you're going to apply those to your future patients or even your current patients, because you are seeing patients now. So that's the beauty of it, right? You being able to actually know what someone may be feeling or to know what someone should be doing, because you've already done it yourself. You've already been through that to some extent. And I think it's as a therapist, I think it's easier to relate to someone when you've already gone through something. When someone comes to you and they have a concussion, you can say, yeah, well, as someone who's already been through that, I know you're probably going to feel this, or you're going to feel this. And you can really empathize with them in a different way that a PT or a therapist or any kind of clinician who hasn't experienced that cannot. And for them, it's really just books. It's just book knowledge. It's just book that you're just throwing at somebody. But for you, it's experience with the knowledge base that you can actually connect to someone on a different level. And there's a reason why I see a lot of the runners in our area for South Brooklyn, a lot of the high level athletes in our area, because that's where I was. All the dancers I usually see and the runners, I usually see them because I can connect with them in a way that someone who just read about that might not be able to. So you having your depth and wealth of knowledge and experiences, you're gonna have a great time just interacting with so many different people, because you have such a depth of knowledge and a depth of experience that you bring to the table. I'm really excited for you. Super excited for you. And I don't know, are you thinking about specializing in a subset already? You're just gonna be in a hospital? Like, what are you thinking?
Honestly, I want to have some type of focus or emphasis on concussion and vestibular rehab. I definitely want to be in the ortho realm, but I really want to have that good, strong understanding of concussion and vestibular rehab. So like every concussion or vestibular patient we have at this current clinical, I'm there. Like I'm trying to do the eval. I'm trying to do the discharge. I'm trying to run the VOMs. I'm trying to do everything possible, to learn as much as I can, and then have great tutelage from neurospecialists at the clinic I am. My last clinical, she was specialized in neurology as well. So I've been exposed to it. So I'm definitely feeling a little more comfortable instead of overwhelmed by all the different things that come into play with concussion. Now it's like, okay, now I can see everything as different layers, and let's check off each layer before we move on to something.
Yeah, that's exciting. And I think that's, I'm a firm believer that doesn't happen for, by accident. So, not saying that your 8 was for this, but, it's the fact that you're going to be going into that realm. It's, I think, a great service and a great give back to potentially to the football community, the NFL, maybe even, and to the future of everyone who has gone through or will have to go through any kind of concussion rehab. So very, very appreciative for you giving back in that realm. I wanted to ask you 2 more NFL questions before we talk about your books. It's been an interesting time with the temperature of our society in terms of race, clearly. I know you live in Denver, which is an interesting place in general, right? Compared to other places like Texas and New York. Every place is different. But no matter where you live, we've all experienced some kind of something when it comes to racism, Black Lives Matter, administration changes, etc.
Yeah.
You made a couple of statements in regards to, being an athlete and having gone through some experiences of racism, being, even at the top level of your profession. I was curious if, you had any thoughts on, I know there are a lot of athletes who talk about more than an athlete, and LeBron James is big up there talking about social issues, and other athletes are doing the same. And there's a lot of talk about the NFL in terms of course, kneeling and respecting the flag and all kinds of things that were related. But every team, I think, and every sport has found a way in this last year or so to kind of find a way to reconcile, right? Whether it's putting branding on certain labels or clothing, whether it's putting certain taglines on certain courts or whatever else. So people are finding a way to connect with the current situation of our society. But I was curious if you had any thoughts on, when it comes to athletes using their platforms for social change, or just to express their feelings of what they want to see in the world. Are you for this? Are you against this? And do you think that the term more than an athlete is a positive thing? Or do you think that, like others, that athletes should just kind of do what they should be doing, playing basketball, playing football, etc., and sticking more to their craft as opposed to sharing their opinions about the world?
Man, I'm a huge proponent of being more than an athlete. I think as long as you're doing your research, why the heck not use your platform? There's people out there with 1,000 followers, 100 followers, being able to say whatever they can on social media based on their type of research. Why the heck can't we? Why is it that we are deemed uneducated or not knowledgeable about a certain situation? But in the same breath, it's like, we have to keep up on top of certain things because it affects our community. These changes in politics affects our community. Like, if any type of changes go on, which community is going to be affected the most first? It's going to be the African-American community, those of color. Like, that's the communities that are going to be hit hard by, or hit in some type of way by some new bill and some new legislation, some new law. Those are, and its history has shown that, like, that's the community that's been taking the brunt of a lot of these changes. So I think why not use our background? Because I didn't catch any grief for using my platform for starting my educational fund, for Bruton's books. I haven't had any type of backlash there. But when the election was going on, I made a few points. I said a few things here and there. I made a couple posts like, why is he whining like this? Like his whole ordeal. And then, people come out the woodworks attacking me on Instagram about that. It's like, why can't I use my platform to share my knowledge, my insight on the election at that current juncture? But when it's to my literacy program, y'all don't have anything to say. It's okay to do that. Like, It's like, I can be more than an athlete to a certain extent. Like, once I start bumping up against that ceiling, then that's when all the other crap comes on. So there's obviously a ceiling effect to being more than an athlete that people in society accept.
That's big time. I just watched One Night in Miami last week, and it's the story about Jim Brown and Malcolm X all coming together, and Sam Cooke and wherever else. And Jim Brown's actually outside of his house talking to this guy, and apparently a friend of his, and they're talking, and you would have never thought there was any kind of bias between them until and the guy he was talking to was a Caucasian male, and they're talking, and then they both stand up, and the Caucasian guy proceeds to walk into his house, his big mansion house or whatever, and Jim Brown doesn't even ask to come in, but he asked if the guy needed help doing anything. And then all of a sudden, he just quickly turned cold and said, "Jim, you know the rules here. I can't let you in the house." And the scene ends with him standing there, and the white guy walking into the house, and Jim Brown, or the actor Jim Brown, just standing there, just like, "Yo, I just sat here and talked to you for like a half an hour, like we were like, buddy." And then, when everything goes down, all of a sudden, we're back to this dynamic. So, just interesting seeing how athletes can be praised for certain things and on the same level as others in certain regards, even higher. And to an extent, like you said, that ceiling effect happens. And then all of a sudden, like, yeah, you've gone too far. So I appreciate your platform, the way you're using it. I do want to talk about the books now. Tell the people about what Bretton's Books is all about.
Bruton's Books are all about childhood literacy, and we're focused on K through third grade. And what we've done in the past is provide books to elementary schools here in Denver, Aurora, Colorado, as well as in Dayton, Ohio. And we've been very fortunate to partner with United Ways in both Denver and in Dayton to get these books to these kids, because we understand that the prison sizes are built based on reading levels at third grade. So feeling like we could probably reduce if you think about economics, we can reduce the tax dollars towards prison. We can also reduce youth ending up in prison, specifically those of color, by giving them books, by helping them learn to read at a grade proficient level. Now, our whole deal also focuses on that summer brain drain. So, what we learned throughout the school year, we kind of, once that school year is over, we forget about it, and now it's just all play. Now we're just playing, we're just being kids, right? But there's still that need to at least pick up a book every day, whether that's 20 minutes or things of that nature. But a lot of these kids, a lot of these families don't have access to them. So that's kind of what our deal is. We want to increase the accessibility to books for the Black community, the Vietnamese community, any type of Asian community, just the whole BIPOC community in general, and just help in that regard. And it's a small foundation. It's not big, grandiose, but it's something that we and myself, my wife, my friends, those of my board member, we can actually be hands-on and be in the schools and help these kids learn to read at a more proficient level.
That's fantastic. I read a little bit about it, and I'm happy that you're doing it. It sounds like it's a great initiative and a great nonprofit. As someone who has a daughter who's kindergarten age, it's so imperative that we really try to help our kids really just to enjoy learning, enjoy reading. And it's so funny how, you just forget as you get older that someone actually had to teach you how to read. As we're teaching her now, it's just so funny watching her progression in terms of how she's learning certain things. That just, like reading just helps. It helps every single day. Just giving a little more does help. And for people who don't have that access to those resources, to even simply have a different kind of a book to read every single night, it's a luxury really to think about that, right? We have all kinds of books that are in our house, our apartment, that are on our shelf, and we go through them. But like you said, a lot of kids don't have those resources. So kudos to you for having that outlet and giving back to the community in your way. Very, very proud of that. And how can people learn more about Bruton's Books?
You can go to brutonsbooks.org. That's BRUTONS books.org. And you can go in and see like our reading list, books that we kind of want to flood out into the communities here in Denver, there in Dayton, Ohio. You can see all the new things we're doing. COVID definitely put a halt to it because now we can't get into the schools. Heck, kids can't even get into the schools, or we're back and forth between red, blue, green, like all the colors of the rainbow as far as like our COVID restrictions. So definitely am still trying to get books to these kids or fund some type of tutor. So when we start picking things back up and we return to that normalcy, we're able to hit the ground running, and let's not let these kids fall behind, because I know we're going to see a big increase of kids not reading at grade level with the demand falling on parents who have to work as well. And it's like, what the heck? How are we going to be able to keep up with everything? We got to keep food on the table, lights on in the house, a roof over our head. But now we also have to find time to be there for our kid and teach them. So definitely anticipated an influx of just not being able to read, children not able to read at grade level.
Folks, if you're just joining us for the Be More Today show, episode 52 here. I'm here with Super Bowl champion David Bruton Jr. We're talking about all kinds of things. Soon to be Dr. Bruton Jr. I got to say that because it's gonna go down in a couple of weeks now. And David, I just want to have a couple questions for you as we are coming to the second part of this show. I know you're a father. You have 3 kids. I know you're married. You have Bruton's books. You're doing 1,000 different things. You're in PT school right now, or finishing up your clinicals in life. How are you balancing all this stuff? Like, how do you balance all of these different things at the same time?
That falls back on the wife. She's definitely held it together. I'd be remiss if I didn't give her credit, kudos, and a lot of praise, because she's definitely kept me on top of my stuff, like with discussion boards for class during clinicals. Like, don't you have school to do? Oh God, yes I do. She, making me lunch, bringing me lunch, things of that nature. Just even the little things go a big way. And then when it comes to the kids at school, like, she's helping teach, she's ripping and running errands, she's taking them to doctor's appointments, or, let's get the kids out and let's go get the nails done. Like, she's a rock star in that regard. So, and then, I don't know if I would have been able to do it without her, honestly, because there is so much going on. And even with COVID happening, life it was still moving fast. Like for me with being in school, it's now I'm on the screen having to learn outside of labs. So it's just causing a little more discipline and demand on my part. So again, that's when the sheriff is in town and telling me, don't you got to study? Don't you got to do this? I'm going to watch my show real quick. You can go over there and study. I was like, well, could you put it on something I don't want to watch? So I'm not distracted. So yeah, honestly, it's been great. But I think when it's something you love, you find a way to make it work. Like, everything that I have to balance are things that I love. I love getting out there in the community and providing books or trying to help kids learn to read. I love children. I love my family and my kids, so I can balance those two. I love helping people in clinic. I love learning. So I have 4 things that I have to balance, but it's all things that I love. And then I make sure, obviously, I have time for myself to go on a bike ride or whatever, just take time to decompress from a hectic week or a busy week. But yeah, I'm not balancing anything that I don't love. Now it's just, which one do I love more at the time, I guess.
That's solid. And yeah, shout outs to the wives. It takes a village, especially when you're in grad school. So, and especially if you have kids, it's a game changer. Especially if you have more than 1 kid and you have, you have 3. So I think it's a requirement to thank those who are helping us to get to where we want to go. My wife helped me through PT school so much, and from doing special tests on her for random exams, to whatever else. So it's just a thing. And, it's at graduation time when they're sitting there or standing next to you, it brings everything together, because you can't do it by yourself. You really need people around you to get this thing done, especially something like PT school. And for those who don't know, PT school is just as hard now as any medical school or PA program. I mean, it's just challenging because we have to know so much. And everything from being able to see somebody for the first time without having to refer from an MD to, just having to know everything about the body, or as much as we can about the body at all times. It's just one of the up and coming growing professions that is in high demand, and it's hard to get into now because it's going to be that thing that is going to be growing even more than it is now. So you're joining a great profession. Clearly, I love it. I've been in this thing for 10 years now. Nice. And I didn't know, like, you knew you wanted to go into this thing. I had no idea I wanted to be a therapist until, I was 25 years old. So the fact that you knew that from an early age and, did other things in the interim, but still knew that in the back of your mind, is something that puts you ahead of the other people who are still trying to figure things out. But like you said, I mean, whether you do it when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, whatever, as long as you get it done. And if it's your passion, doesn't feel like work, you find a way to make it work. So
for sure,
that makes all kinds of complete sense.
Man, I think it's funny that you mentioned doing special tests. Like, I can remember like 2 special tests that my wife was just like so bad at me. Like, she's like, don't touch me ever. Oh man, one was a shoulder apprehension test. She was like, oh no, don't ever do that one. And then it was the scour test.
Oh yeah.
The hip. Oh yeah, she kicked me. She was not happy. Yeah, she was like, "You're never doing another test on me again." So I was like, and I haven't done another test since the hip on
There
her.
you
I've just
go.
been working on the ankle here and there. For
There you go. Although I'm sure she probably wants the massage or the manual work. You're
that's
working on
all
some
she
manual
wants. She doesn't
techniques.
want the
Yeah,
exercise.
exactly. No manual techniques today, boo. Sorry. No
Yeah.
soft tissue mobilizations this time. No, we're good. So David, listen, I asked everybody a couple of different world questions, and one of them I have for you is, you've had the luxury of seeing the world from various lenses, right? You've seen the world from the pinnacle of Super Bowl champion, NFL status. You've seen the world also from the student slash working class lens. You've also seen the level from the people you work with for your foundation. And if you could change one thing about the world that we live in right now, currently, anything about the world that you would change, what's that one thing that you would change to make it a better place?
World peace. No, I'm kidding. That's I saw Miss Congeniality not too long ago, so that was stuck in my head.
Good movie, yes.
I love Sandra Bullock. That's my Hollywood crush for some reason. But one thing I would change in the world, honestly, I think just follow suit as far as the medical field, as far as like healthcare accessibility. I think that's going to be huge. Like if there's more accessibility for the impoverished communities, then do we see a drop in as far as hypertension and cardiac disease and lung disease and things of that nature? Like, and then these people giving them that opportunity to live a healthy life and not having to be constantly getting checked up on or not having to struggle. Now, do they create something that betters the world or something, or bring on more opportunities or another factory or whatnot and give more employment opportunities to individuals who are struggling? Like, I think there could potentially be a cascade effect in that regard. And I think, yeah, that's the one thing I would change, especially because my parents have heart disease, diabetes, things of that nature that all came on later on the line, but it's just their ways.
Yeah, I think that's a big time statement. I do think that to live in a world where we didn't have all these different health issues would be an amazing place to live in. But yeah, just having access, the simple access would be by itself a game changer. So I appreciate that. Now, Dave, I talked about my book a little bit on our swag program show, but I did write a book called Be More Today. It's not a kid's book, but it is a book called The 40 Guide to a Better Version of You. And in the book, I basically talk about ways that people can apply things that I learned in terms of my schooling and my athletic career and what have you, just to life. And it's basically my thesis, actually. It's my thesis from PT school put in a book form, in a 40-day book form. And it's based on this model called the transnumerical model of change, basically like this model of change that we use for behavior change. So, it's not like 21 days to change your diet, but it's definitely a stage of change protocol that we use to get people who want to work out, finding ways for them to actually change their behavior so they actually do want to work out. We actually based it on a group of adolescents who were obese, minority women, and we use this model to help them to increase their exercise efficacy through dance and horseback riding and some other things in Brooklyn. And it was very effective. So I put it into a book form, and I put workouts in there and whatever else. But Be More Today is basically the hashtag or the name of the brand that we're putting out there now. And I'm always curious to ask everyone what Be More Today, that phrase, means to them. So you, sir, are the 52nd, should be 50th, I'm sorry, or 52nd person that I'm asking what Be More Today means to them. So I'm going to call you doctor now, Dr. Bretton Jr. When you hear the phrase Be More Today, what does that phrase Be More Today mean to you?
And what it means is be more engaged. For me, it's like be there more for your family, be there more for your patient, be there more for the kids and who you're trying to reach for your foundation, be more for my wife. Like, that's when I hear that, it's like, don't take anything for granted and just be present and take advantage of that moment that you have. Because that moment is going to come and go just like that. So you want to take full opportunity. You want to take full advantage of that opportunity, of that moment, of that day. Because like you said earlier in the show, life's short. Tomorrow's not promised. There's a lot of things that come in and walking is not even promised the next day. So like, why not take advantage of the day and just take advantage of what you have in your life going on right now.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling that. Actually, the lady or the woman we had on the show last week was in the history of MS month. She actually has MS, and all she said she wants to do is walk. That's all she wants to do. She hasn't walked in a year. Oh, and she was like, yeah, all I want to do is walk. She's 30 years old, and she can't walk at all. So like you said, just taking advantage of those things and recognizing that it's not promised. And I think that you being in the PT field now is going to give so much more of an inspiration to other athletes, people who have been in your position now and they're transitioning to whatever they're going to do now post their careers. A lot of people become anchors and sportscasters and what have you. But some really go back to school. And, I'm really impressed that you are doing this and doing it so well. And I think you're going to be trailblazing a path that's going to be followed by many, many more to come. So besides going back to school, I'm sure you have one thing that you want to do new for 2021. If you could pinpoint one thing that you want to do that was going to be different, one thing you want to start for this year, what would that one thing be?
Oh, I wanted to start one thing in 2020. So like a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, sure.
Like, this is what I wanted to accomplish this year. Oh man. That's a tough one. Because I feel like, well, me and the wife had our 1 year anniversary. So we made it there. Every year is a milestone. Every day is a milestone for us. Like, we appreciate it every day. The kids, oh my goodness. Well, if I wanted to do something in 2021, I'd want to go snowboard in Patagonia. Like, if I wanted to do one thing and graduate. Okay, two things. Graduate in December. Make sure I graduate and pass that MPTE.
Yes. That sounds good. Yeah, man, I'll take that. Yeah, pass that board exam. Shoot.
Oh yeah. Did you take it before you graduated or after?
I took it after, and to be honest, and this is kind of how my whole podcast and Be More Today came about. I failed my board exam a number of times. Not saying that's going to be you at all, but my journey was I didn't take it seriously the first couple times. I said couple times. I failed it 11 times. 11 times, yeah. And I passed on the 12th time, and I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. I went to some of the best schools, so I it's not like I didn't have a comprehension issue. That was not my issue at all. It was a lack of diligence to the craft. I was about the craft, a lack of diligence to really honing in on your craft and really taking advantage of what had to get done, mixed with a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of not being confident in knowing what you know and second guessing yourself. Yeah. And it took me a long time to actually recognize that, because when you're so good, I mean, you can recognize this. When you're so good at doing so many things, you sometimes take that for granted. And I took a lot of those things for granted, to the point where I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then I kind of spiraled down to a weird sense of, okay, well, why am I doing this? Like, maybe I should play football. Maybe I should do something different. So, but through a lot of, like you said, prayer and support from friends and different ways of just trying to figure out what my issues were. I took that test that last time. I passed it, and that was a while ago. I've been practicing now for 10 years, and I don't even recognize. It's almost like when you're playing football, I don't even recognize the times that I failed. Like, I'm sure you don't really remember the games you lost. You remember the games you won, and I don't really even remember the times that I failed that exam. I couldn't even tell you, although it was 11 times, how many times I, got down on myself and what have you. I can't really remember all those things. I remember it clearly because it happened, but the actual feelings of it, Now all I do is remember seeing that pass.
Yeah,
And
man. Honestly, I don't think an exam tells the story of how you are as a clinician. Like, it's a test, and no
yeah,
matter how many times you have the confidence, you have the ability, and you graduated. It's just this extra little hump that you had to conquer and get over. But man, it doesn't speak to how you are as a therapist. It's just like, I passed this test, cool. Now I can do it without having supervision, and now I can do this thing that I love. It's not like I wasn't working on my craft. It was just I was second guessing every dang question here because it was high stress and high stakes.
yeah,
For
exactly,
sure. Oh man, good
exactly.
stuff. Everybody's story is different, and appreciate you sharing that with me.
Yeah, and I wasn't gonna. I usually, well, I can't say usually. My initial response was, let me not share, because I was like, oh, well, what are they gonna think of me? I went to all these different schools. I'm supposed to not ever make any mistakes, but
Mhm.
I recognize more and more that sharing is a way for someone else to get through their own thing and to deal with their own issues, and it may
Mhm.
inspire somebody else who's also struggling on their end to say, you know what, it's not just me. So that's why I shared. I've been sharing that with other things in life as well, because it's helped me to recognize and be humbled by the things that have come now on the tail end from being director and winning all these kinds of awards for other things. No, you would have never thought that I had gone through that, but
Mhm.
I do think those things made me a more humble and a stronger person in the end. So I'm appreciative of all of them, So,
For sure.
um, listen, any final tips you want to share with aspiring physical therapists that are going to be following your lead, or any tips you want to share for student athletes who are trying to be in the NFL, or anything related to Bruton's books?
So for the student athletes, I'd say the way you do small things, the way you do all things, and that's something that my dad taught me. It's like even the little stuff outside of the field, off of the track, outside of the weight room, those things come back and they can be overall be very beneficial for you and your craft. So don't take any chance of film study for granted or studying in the classroom, because that studying there could translate it to how you study film for a basketball game or a football game or anything like that. For Bruton's books, it's about accessibility, and it's on us, those who have, to help those who have not. Whether that is finding a library Dropbox and dropping books off where people can take a book and return a book. I know COVID times are weird, but when we get back to some type of normalcy, let's do our part to provide and help our youth to read at a great level. So we're not worried about our youth in the future falling into the hands of jail because they can't comprehend what they're reading in high school. Um, and then for aspiring PTs, it's a medical school. Like, you're going to get knocked down a time or two, and how we tell our patients, like, when they fall, we give them strategies to get up when they're struggling. Like, sometimes you have to muscle up. You have to get into that lunge and you have to brute strength up and stand back up tall and just roll with those punches. You're going to get through it. You're going to be great. You're going to have all these tools, and don't expect to learn everything. Don't expect to know everything. That's when we have to do our due diligence and have the confidence to look at ourselves and be like, okay, I'm not trained enough in this realm. Let me refer it to Sean. Let me refer it to the PT who works in the other booth. Let me refer it to my PT friend who works 20 minutes away from me. Like, just being able to be confident and knowing what you know, but knowing what you don't know, because you'll give your patient the best possible service possible if you know that.
Hmm. Well said, sir. Well said. Dave, where can people follow you or learn more about your journey and your story?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. I believe it's D_BRUT Junior 30. Same with Twitter. And then you can find me on Facebook, Athlete Turned PT. That's a little page that I put together there. So we're just getting up and running there. But every week I kind of open the floor for questions or tell a little bit about my story, let you into my life and my journey thus far. Um, so with more to come in the near future.
Awesome. Super excited for the future for you. Super excited to see where you're going to be going moving forward. And Yeah, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you having me, man. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun. I'm glad to get a chance to speak with you and learn more about your journey, as well as let people know about mine as well. So appreciate it. Keep up
Not
the
a
great work.
problem at all. And like we said earlier, folks, Lucille Ball said, I'd rather regret the things I have done than the things I haven't. You already heard David talk about all the things he's been through. Even though he's got a Super Bowl ring, even though he's been to the top of his profession, right? He doesn't want to regret going back and finishing what he started. He said he always wanted to be a PT. And, some people say they want to do certain things and never, ever do it. But he said, let me do what I got to do and let me get back to what I want to do. And he's doing that and doing it well, as he's about to be a future doctor of physical therapy in now weeks. So we affirm him. We appreciate him. And if you're in that same situation where you want to do something, stop making excuses. Go out there and do it, right? You want to be a videographer. You want to go back to school. You want to start this new job. Do those things. Do it. Life is short. And don't ever think that you can't do it. Like David said, you're going to have days when you get knocked down, where you feel like it's going to be too hard, where the hill's going to be too hard to climb, but get out there and just get it done. And even if you follow my story, like I've always told you guys, failure is going to happen. You got to just continue to fail forward. And no one cares what it is at the end, right? When you pass that exam, when you get to that test, you get that job, they still call you doctor, they still call you lawyer, they still call you whatever they want to call you. So get out there and get it done. For more stuff on Be More Today, follow us as always, BeMoreToday.com for my book, our music, our workouts on our YouTube page, always going out there. And continue to watch our podcast and follow our podcast on Anchor and all major podcast platforms. If you want to email us, as always, BeMore2day@gmail.com. And the Words for Life podcast continues to come out every single Wednesday. So check my boy T. Farrell out, as always, doing his thing, giving you inspiring words of comfort to keep you moving and grooving. As always, Be More Today shows every single Monday. So check us out. And for all my March babies, you already know what's going on. As I always say, folks, have a good day, have a good night, have a great life, and continue to take your steps of greatness to be the best version of you. See you next week. Peace.